What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 of this 4-part series. This is the 4th part of the series, the end of the God Never Said That series. And this week we're specifically talking about this idea that God said it, it's in the Bible, so that settles it. And we're like, no, pretty sure God never said that. Just because it's in the scriptures, and that's good and it's inspired and true and all of those things, we can't just take it at black and white just for what it says. And if you didn't watch yesterday, go ahead and watch yesterday's. Hopefully that will make sense. And so today we're talking about, okay, so if we don't just pick up the scriptures, read it, and be like, okay, there it is, that settles it, like, then what are the scriptures? Like, what is the Bible? And a lot of times you hear people, maybe pastors, teachers, maybe people in general, believers, atheists, oftentimes I hear this, well, people will say, well, the Bible says, well, the Bible says, well, the Bible says. And I guess my first question or issue with this is, actually the Bible doesn't say anything. Because the Bible isn't one book. We treat it like it's one book, and you can go to the store and you can buy it as one book, but it's not one book. The Bible is like this compilation. It's like a bookshelf of 66 books written by over 40 authors over a period of like 1,500 years. Within these 66 books, they were written by men, women, rich, poor, from all different parts of the planet and different cultures, written in times of freedom, written in times of slavery, written in prisons, written in homes and temples. This compilation we call the Bible, it's actually 66 separate books written at different points in history over about 1,500 years, like I said, even in different cultures. So we can't just pick it up and say, oh, well, the Bible says. No, it actually doesn't. An author said in a specific book that was written in a certain context said. And all of that does matter as we go through and unpack it. That's a beautiful and important process, I think, for all of us every time we pick up the scriptures. So what are the scriptures? When we think of the Bible, like, what is it? Is it God's holy word, right? Because sometimes on some Bibles it actually says that, like the Holy Bible. Is that what it is? And what does that even mean? Is it a truth book? Is this like a book that we turn to understand ultimate truth? Maybe. I've heard it explain this, and I always forget it because I didn't really grow up with this, but some people say, oh, the Bible, B-I-B-L-E. It stands for Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, right? So is that it? Are they instructions before we leave Earth? Which is weird, because heaven is actually going to be the recreation of Earth. So there's that. Is the Bible, is it a history book? Maybe. Ultimately, when we think about this idea of the Bible, and well, it says it in the Bible, so that should settle it, and that's just what I'm going to believe, we kind of have to land on this fundamental question: what is the Bible? What are the scriptures? And in short, I would just say, from Genesis to Revelation, all 66 books by all these authors, and in their context, they all describe one thing. The scriptures are a love story. From Genesis 1 to Revelation 22, it's a love story about a God who is so desperately in love with his people. And it looks different and it sounds different at different parts of the story, but ultimately that's it. And sometimes maybe you're sitting there watching this and you're like, yeah, but have you read the part when? Or what about when it says that they should? And you're like, what's loving about that? And all I would say is, just like we said yesterday, we have to look at it in its context. And I would argue that from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22, in its context, the scriptures is one beautiful and powerful love story about a God who's desperately in love with you. For the next couple of days, we're going to unpack one or two of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't really buy the whole love story seen in light of this. So stay tuned as we kind of unpack that. But ultimately, what are the scriptures? It's a beautiful and powerful love story.